Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to another exciting episode of As the Van Turns. Actually, the other day I did a talking head episode where I was talking about why I don't think people should be living in a van, some of the drawbacks to living in a van, and why you shouldn't live in a van unless you absolutely had to, or you had certain exceptions. Today I'm going to be talking about when I think living in a van might be practical or even smart, an intelligent choice versus a survival choice. The first thing is that I think that if you don't have any other option, living in a van is something you should consider doing. It's better than living on the street. It's better than living under a bridge, So if you're losing your home and you don't have other options, like you don't qualify for housing assistance, or you don't have family or friends that you can stay with to try to reset yourself, you're not earning enough money to pay for a room versus an actual apartment or something, but renting a room somewhere, then living in a van becomes an option, but it's not going to be all pretty. It's going to be pretty hard. It's going to be, if you want to see how hard it can be, and some of the good moments and stuff, watch my vlog from the very beginning, episode 1, that explains, well, it doesn't explain, it kind of shows you the first day I moved into the van on a more permanent type basis. I pretty much have lived in the van mostly, on and off for the past 3 years, but mostly on. And just recently moved into an RV, which is way better in some ways, but worse, a lot worse in other ways. So we'll be doing an episode to talk about that. But now, on to the topic of this video, which is who should live in a van, or why you should live in a van. Living in a van does offer some major benefits, and a lot of it is actually financial. Yeah. So if you are not forced to live in a van, but have the option to live in a van, it is something worth considering. The reason for the two differences is this: if it doesn't work out and you decide you don't like living in a van because your finances allow it, you can move back into sticks and bricks, into an apartment or something. So living in a van in that case is an attempt to save money. But what you're going to find is that you save money. Here's how you kind of save money. You save money on some ways, but then you spend more money in other ways. One big way that you save money is on rent or mortgage payments. So let's say you had rent for like a 1 or 2 bedroom house or apartment around here, around Florida where I am. It roughly runs about $1,200, and that's just for the cost of the 2 bedroom. A 1 bedroom might run you about $900, maybe $1,000. So let's go with 1 bedroom. Okay, so you say $1,000, and that's just to rent the apartment to sleep in and eat in. That's essentially what you do. You sleep, you eat, you maybe relax a little bit, watch TV, So that's $1,000. And then on top of that, you have to pay electricity and water bills, utilities. So, and most people, they end up having cable or whatever, an internet cable. So by the time you add all that up, let's say $150 for electricity, $50 for water and cable, internet is about another $100. You're looking at about what, $300 just for that? $300. And then on top of that, you have food bills and stuff that you buy, because you tend to buy a lot. And a lot of people, when they live in a house or apartment, they end up buying more food than they eat, and they end up tossing a lot of it. Because being in a bigger environment, a bigger space, people tend to be a little bit more wasteful. I know some people say, well, I don't waste. I can Yeah, but most people, when they have a lot of space, they end up basically buying more than they can actually use, and end up costing. I'm finding that's happening with me even in the RV. But it's still, I think, cheaper economically than buying food in a van. But anyhow, let's go back to why you should live in a van, or the kind of people I think you should live in a van. One, if you're young and you have some money, you're not like homeless and broke. If you're young and homeless and broke, you need to get a job, okay? Possibly get a job that you can work on the road as an independent, like graphics design, web work, even programming. But you got to have a steady stream of income. Like you got to make sure you're going to get income, even whether or not you're on the road or not. So you do need income, okay? Some young people, especially if they're good looking, can actually turn living into a van into a business and make money on it by vlogging about it, becoming influencers. A lot of people like watching young, good-looking people on social media, and those are the people who actually glamorize van living. And the reason they do that is kind of a disservice to actual van dwellers who are struggling. But for them, they're not van dwellers. They're business people and actors and business people, and they're trying to make money by promoting something that people want to see. It's kind of like entertainment, or people live the van life, the fake van life, vicariously through them. So, their van adventures are traveling all over the place, taking a bath in a waterfall in a canyon somewhere, waking up, with the sky over you and lights all around your camp and looking so romantic. That's because it's all staged. It's not real, okay? But for those of you who really want to live in a van, living in a van can offer you freedom to, one, travel, okay? So if you're not forced to live in a van, i.e. you have to stay in a certain town and try to work and stuff there, but you're free to travel, then living in a van is something I definitely recommend, because, and I actually kind of recommend a van over like an RV, full-blown Class C or a Class A RV. Class B is similar to van, so for the most part, I consider those almost like a van. But I would recommend living in a van if you want to travel and you have some income, okay? Your costs, especially if you own the van outright, let's pretend you don't own a van, but you have your steady source of income somehow. Either you're on disability, you have retirement, you have something, a pension, something, or an inheritance or whatever, but you got a stockpile of money. Let's suppose that normally you would spend, we said, $1,000 a month for rent for your apartment, plus about $300 to $500 for utilities. That's $1,500 to live in a one-bedroom apartment. Living in a van is going to be a lot cheaper than that, okay? Let's suppose you have good credit and you can buy a newer vehicle, which means, the reason I say newer vehicle is there's less likelihood of it breaking down. So your budget is not an issue. That makes living in a van a lot more pleasant, okay? You can buy a newer van, possibly a high-top van, like, one of those, the Transits, several of the other high-top extended vans that you essentially are converting into a mobile home, almost like a Class B, but better than a Class B, because you're building it, and you're building it a lot better than evidently how they build mobile homes, as I'm finding out. Mobile homes, they're terrible. Anyhow, at least the older ones, the ones that I'm in, the ones that I have access to and can afford. But anyhow, if you can build out your own van, you're like golden. And what you do is, let's say you go to buy a van, let's say it costs, you buy a decent van, maybe 1 or 2 years old, but not older than that. This will give you a bit more higher chance of good reliability. The van's not going to break down on you while you're traveling across the country here. Training. So anyhow, you buy the van and then you have to pay for the loan, because you didn't have the $20,000 or $30,000 up front. So on that loan, you might end up paying anywhere from $300 to $500 a month. Okay, and then your insurance could be maybe $100 to $200 a month or more. Let's go $200. So you're up to $700. But you got like a brand new van, and it's insured, fully insured. $700 is less than half what you were paying for your single bedroom apartment. So already you're way better off. And if you keep making your payments and stuff, you're gonna own this in what, 5 or 6 years? It'll be yours, and you can keep living in it, or you can sell it outright, or you can pass it on to somebody. Excuse me here. So already, financially, that's a pretty good deal. Now, if you decide to travel, which is the whole point of living in a van, I mean, that is the benefit of living in a vehicle, living in a van, you know, your house is on wheels. If you don't take advantage of that, there's no point for you to live in a van. So, one of the key components would be you want to travel, and you can afford it, okay? So you buy the van, you can even spend a couple $1,000s more building it out to become almost like a Class B. You can put in a bedroom, a kitchen, possibly even a bathroom, maybe even a shower. You get a long enough van with a high top and whatnot. You're going to be that group of the glamorous van dwellers, okay? You're not going to have money issues because you can afford a $500-$600 refrigerator, Dometic, whatever those things are. You can afford the water heater and all these things to build out your vehicle. By the time you finish building out your vehicle, maybe you spend $30,000, maybe $35,000. That's still cheaper than a house, even a single bedroom house, unless you buy it at an auction or something, you know, on discount somewhere. But you're going to have a brand new house on wheels. It's a tiny house, and everything works. So that is a consideration. Okay. Another group that might consider trying to live in a van could potentially be like people that are like college students. Okay, this is a temporary situation. And the reason I bring this up is when I was in college, dorm rentals were mega expensive. And then when I rented a room, you know, with a roommate situation, you had to deal with psychopath roommates. Some of them are psycho. Some people out there are nuts. And you have to live with them. You don't even know them, and they're nuts. And they're your roommate. You know, they eat your food, they steal your stuff, they do bad things to you. Well, living in a van in that case may be an option. If I had thought about it, and I was single and I was going to college, living in a van would be on my priority list of housing. You know, unless I had access to other housing and I could afford it. But if I could afford it and I had a choice between affording that and not having any money left over, or living in a van and having a lot of money stored up so I could buy a house or something later, I will definitely live in a van. So if you're living in a van to save money, which means of course you're not at that group that has to live in a van because you got no money. You actually do have money, so you can get out of it at any time. You can live in a van and save money. In that case, you might not be one of those glamorous traveling people. You're going to be more like the stealth van dweller, or even the college campus van dweller. And you pay for your parking and try to hide from the parking attendants, the parking police. But you could park around the campus, you could park around the town, and access, you know, the campus gym and all the facilities and stuff like that. So you could save a lot of money living in a van. So that's a group I would, you know, consider living in a van. Another group is retirees, people who, once again, it all comes down to having money. If you have like a disability or you're a retiree and you have a pension, you have basically a certain amount of money coming in every month, even if it's small. You know, it's a fixed amount and it's small. You can at least budget around it. There's no like set amount. Some people ask how much it costs to live in a van. Well, how much does it cost to live? Each person varies. So, you know, what seems normal for one person is extravagant for another, and what seems possible for one person is impossible for another. So what you can calculate on is this: for most people, it's cheaper to live in a van than living in a sticks and bricks. And if nothing else, the cost of utilities and the cost of the mortgage or the rental, which is $1,500. So whatever your cost of living in your van, you subtract it from $1,500. That's how much money you'll have left over. But you have to subtract a little bit from that amount, because living in a van, your gas expenses are more than likely going to go up because you're going to be traveling a lot more. Just because you got to drive everywhere. Some people try to do laundry in their van and stuff like that, but it's easier to just pay at the laundromat. Or if you were extremely broke like I was, you get a bucket or something and a plunger or a small little container like I had, and just shake it up and do your own laundry. Watch my episodes, my vlogs, to see how I survived with $3 living in a van. For that first year was tough because I had no money, no resources really, other than here, just trying to survive. So if you're on a fixed income, let's say, I'm just going to make up a figure. Let's say you're on retirement or you're on disability or whatever, and you get $900 a month, $900 a month. Well, that's your budget right there. You're probably not going to be able to afford one of those brand new $30,000 van bills, okay? At that point, you're probably looking at getting a used van, hopefully a reliable van. I would suggest something, usually something in like $5,000-$6,000 range is generally good. And you might even want to consider, instead of getting a van, if you're on like disability because you have limited, physical movement and stuff like that, or if you're retired and older, building and stuff might not be something that you can do easily, because building out a van and converting it and stuff does require a lot of strenuous physical activity. So you might want to consider trying to buy a Class B RV. Class B RVs look almost like vans, but they already have the stuff already built. Otherwise, you can get a van and you can build it out. There's lots of videos on YouTube. If you get a minivan like mine, it's really easy to build out and not too expensive and pretty quick. You can do it in one day if you wanted to. You can watch my various emergency van builds. I'm getting ready to run another, I don't know if I'm going to do a whole series or just one video to show how to build out this van. We're going to break it down and rebuild it back up. I don't know if I'm going to take everything apart, but I'm going to show you how to assemble a van like Little Blue 2 and how everything works. And we might even do some live sessions where you can ask questions. I'm not like an expert by any means. I'm only sharing with you how I did it, and it's worked fine for me for at least 3 years. And this is from 10 years of living in a van experience. So, that it's not like a set way to do it. I guess everybody can build out their own, and using their skill set and whatever they're comfortable with doing. I built this using my skill set, which is limited to compared to a lot of people, but and to some people it might seem like I can build a lot more than them, so they may be even more limited than me. And I have some tips on how to build if you're not very skilled at carpentry, how to get your van to be functional as well as aesthetically pleasing. So we'll be talking about that on the van build as well. So if you have a fixed income, you're on disability or whatever, you have to take that into account. How will you get your medications? How will you function in a van? Living in a van can be a bit more difficult than living in a sticks and bricks. If you're in a minivan like this, there's really no room to stand up. You're going to be laying down most of the time or sitting. In truth, when I was living in the van full time, I didn't spend a lot of time in the van. I was actually working most of the time, or I was out at the compound building all those projects that you saw, the huts, the yurts, a whole bunch of other stuff. Or I was exploring the beach, the woods, the wilderness. I was making the most of the situation. Even though I didn't move into the van, by choice. I mean, I did by choice because I could have lived on the streets. But it wasn't something I really wanted to do. It was something I had to do. But having to do it doesn't mean it has to be unpleasant. You can try to make it pleasant, which is what I did. I tried to make it pleasant by making the best of the situation. And what that meant was, even though I was, due to certain circumstances and stuff, I was kind of stuck in this area where I live right now. And it has to do with wanting to be with my kids and making sure they're okay. So those were stipulations I put on myself due to the circumstances, my own circumstances, which could be very limiting and very depressing because, you know, if the job market's not there, you're going to be struggling. But somehow we managed to make it, you know. The other thing is learning to appreciate little things. Like, I would actually get up. When you live in a van, you become a lot closer to nature. So there's a lot of things that get removed, like pressures of living in a house, sticks and bricks. You don't have to worry about bills, really, other than your insurance, your phone bill. You know, it's kind of important to have a decent phone with internet access, because that may be your only way to connect to family and friends and even the world. So that's an expense that you should plan on spending on, trying to get money for internet. Doesn't have to be like full-blown or anything, but at least enough to call and connect every so often. You'll be using a lot of public resources like libraries and, you know, the mall, various stores, even hanging out. You get to see a lot more, that's for sure. You know, because when you live in a van, your expenses are lower, so you may not have to take 1 or 2 or 3 full-time jobs like you would just to pay for your sticks and bricks. You might be able to get by with one job, or maybe even a part-time job. Or if, like I said, if you're on disability or have a pension or some windfall, some other money sitting there reserved, you can kind of live free and take advantage of that. You know, not everyone does that. Most of the world, most of the people, especially in industrial nations like America, they're not really living. You know, they're alive and they work every day and pay money for their house and for their car and their insurance, but that's kind of what they do. They work. Some of them work so much they don't even have time for their families. They don't have time for their children, you know. So living in a van offers you the ability to spend time with people, to spend time with yourself, and to spend time in nature. You get to reconnect with life. You know, it's a gift to be able to do that. I remember when I was in the van, I would wake up pretty much at sunrise almost every day, or even right before sunrise, and I would go hang out with the dolphins and the manatees, and I would watch all the poor saps having to drive their car to work. They're missing all of that. They're missing the fact that manatees come out at a certain time and dolphins come out. There's a routine that the wild animals have, like the birds. I met like a one-legged bird, you know, and the animals, they tend to know me. Some of you, if you watch the videos, you go, wow, he seems to really connect with the animals. It's because when you live like that, you're like one of them. You know, the animals, they see you as one of them. They don't see you as a human. They see you as a dolphin or a manatee. They see you as a friend. So it's easier to connect with nature when you're more in tune with nature, because when the weather was bad and it affects the animals, and you're living in a van, the weather's bad and it affects you too. When it's super hot for the animals, it's super hot for you. When it's rainy for them, it's rainy for you. So, and when there's like in Florida, when there's a hurricane, yeah, they're in danger and so are you. So there's like almost like camaraderie with you and the wild animals. So if you wonder how or why I seem to get along with animals, it's because I'm one of them. You know, you're like, what do you mean you're one of them? Well, here's the thing, and this doesn't really have to do with van living, but it has to do with life and philosophy. It has to do with your outlook on life. You know, when you start living like the animals, you tend to act like the animals, which means you don't really fear too much. You know, you do fear dying, kind of, but not really. It doesn't overrule everything. It does guide you, because you don't want to die. You know, hopefully you don't want to die. Hopefully you want to live, because, you know, despite how hard things might seem, it's still better than being dead. Being dead kind of sucks. life is over, you know. And I do believe life is a gift, no matter how you live it. You should try to live it to the best of your ability and make the most of your life, because, you know, it's a limited time gift. You don't have unlimited time. Anyhow, those are the major groups that I think could benefit from living in a van. You know, and of course there's a third group that could live in a van, and we kind of discussed them briefly, and those are the people who don't really live in a van. It's, and you've seen them. They're the really popular ones on social media, on Instagram, on YouTube. They are using living in a van as a backdrop, almost like a set, and a studio, and a script. So the stuff they do isn't necessarily, it's like fake van life. And it's actually profitable for them, and it's romantic. But not everyone can do that. Yes, you can say, well, it's easy if you do that. You can. It's not easy to do that. Okay. If those people are successful, it's not dumb luck. I know a lot of people like to think that some young, cute person that's on the internet, on YouTube or whatever, with a successful YouTube channel, was lucky. Luck kind of has a little bit of a role, but really success a lot of times depends on that person. You know, there's something about them that makes them successful. Either people like them, people enjoy watching them. And then you're like, well, if they're cute, that's why people like watching them. Yeah, they got that going for them, and they're taking advantage of it. Not only are they cute, they're smart enough to take advantage of that resource. You know, if you have intelligence and you don't take advantage of it, that's your own fault. You know, if you have beauty and you don't take advantage of it, it's an asset that you've been given by God. You know, so be gracious, be thankful. But for them to be successful, they also have to know how to market themselves and how to produce the content that draws people. You know, this channel, I have somewhat of a background in trying to produce content that people will be drawn and stuff, but I haven't really used it. And it's because most of the time on here, you see me in actual survival mode. I'm just trying to stay alive. I'm not trying to, you know, promote a viral type channel or anything like that. Which, now that things are stabilizing, I may try to produce some viral type content. So I'm not really sure I want to put them on this channel. I could. Maybe I'll produce a couple more, but viral type content can end up being a great income source. So, you know, if you are an actual van dweller and you have the luxury of being able to produce high quality videos with good editing, and you have the skill set, yeah, by all means, take advantage of that. You know, that's your God-given gift. Don't be ashamed. You know, it's a business, it's a job. You think actors, you think Mark Hamill is ashamed that he got cast as Luke Skywalker? You know, take advantage. It's your blessing. And if you are a van dweller and watching all those glamorous people and you know, upset with them and mad, don't be. You know, that what they do, what they're selling isn't the same as what you're doing, and they're selling. You're not. You're well, some of you may be trying to sell the idea, but aren't as successful as those people. I don't know. But they're doing things to try to make money as an income source. So they're expending money on good cameras, editing software. They might even hire a crew, and they write the script and they work it all out as if it was a show. If you would do the same and could do the same, so it's not just would do the same, you have to have the skills that they have, and you have to have all the stuff that they have to make themselves as successful as they are. Okay? More power to them. But if you're just trying to survive like me, you're an actual van dweller, and this is a struggle to stay alive, take some of that cue from them, because you can kind of ride their coattails to an extent. You're like, well, I don't want to do it that way. Well, if you're trying to survive and you have an opportunity to survive easily because someone's basically giving you help without even really helping you, but because of what they're doing, they're making waves that you can catch that ride with them. Take advantage of it. You know, I'm not saying that you have to say, well, they're real and blah, 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 blah. No, they're doing something that's drawing attention to you and your cause. And you're at the opposite end of the spectrum, which might draw people who are really in a situation like yours to come over and watch, which is why I think this channel has grown, is that we're real, you know. I still have people who say I'm fake, which is they obviously have not watched my videos. You know, when they say I'm fake and I don't really live in a van, I didn't really live in a van, and I didn't really live in a hut, I didn't really live out in the woods, I didn't really, you know, or they're just trolls, you know. They're in an alternate reality. But I think for the most part, most of the subscribers, most of the viewers of this channel do realize that this channel is a lot different than most YouTube channels. I've been sharing what happens. And it's not so much about van dwelling, but about life, you know, and the unexpected turns that it can take. Here I am rambling on again. But I think I'm pretty much done with the topic of living in a van. I think that if you want to travel and you've got the money, okay, this is perfect. And the key to it all is going into this lifestyle knowing that you can get back out. Because if you go into it and you don't have the option to get out and you realize it was a mistake, you're screwed. So keep that in mind if you're looking into getting into van dwelling. Remember, regardless of what brings you to van dwelling, your perspective, your attitude, and your approach to situations and crises as they occur will determine the experience that you have. So make the best of it if you decide to go into van dwelling, and, you know, or even if you didn't really decide but was forced to do so. Take advantage of the fact that you have some freedoms that people in a stick and brick do not. Well, until next time, everyone, I want to thank you for joining me. I hope that you are staying safe wherever you are, and that you have the luxury of making a choice when it comes to how you want to live your life. Take care, everyone. God bless you all. Bye-bye now.